This is the first Saxony and Sean show. Okay, good. Welcome to the first edition of the Saxony and Sean show. Sean has yet to show up to the party. He's very busy. Mixing it up. What is the beeping sound? Is that your phone?
I don't know. Look,
we need to shut the doors. Probably. Oh, this show's off to a rough start.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sean and Sax Show. That is the name of the show. That will always be the name of the show. It's just because it's the name of the show. We don't need to change it. We already got the
We'd have to get a new neon.
The whole deal.
We'd have to get a new neon sign.
Yeah, first shall be last. Last shall be first. You can go first. I don't really give a shit. You know what I'm saying? But the name of the show is the Sean and Sax Show. And we do already have the neon sign, and we're not going to buy another one. So
okay, that's fair.
Guys, welcome to the show. Special edition. We're calling this one our 2-year anniversary edition. Apparently, Sax needed to change seats for this one. So if you're watching this, you'll see that we've adjusted.
If you're listening, you won't even know.
Listening, you won't even know. But we're
know.
Here in the studio, and we've adjusted. Why? I don't know.
For
babe.
Fun.
Do you know why?
Just for fun. Just because.
Oh.
So today is our 2-year wedding anniversary, or as I like to call it, today is the second birthday of our wedding.
I don't understand that.
Well, everyone loves birthdays. Like, you love your birthday, you look forward to your birthday, and it's the second birthday of our wedding.
Second birthday of our wedding. Mm-hmm. We were watching our wedding video this morning as we were laying in bed.
Yep.
And it's so cute, and it's so cute and nice. And it's actually really cool. It's fun. We always talked about how like if we were ever like dealing with some shit, we should just watch our wedding video.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So we didn't really have a big budget for our wedding. We didn't really want to spend and do a lot.
Well, we could have spent whatever. We didn't want to.
I said we didn't.
Right.
Didn't say we didn't want to.
Right.
So more than 50% of the money we spent of our wedding's entirety was just on the video, our videographer.
Yeah.
Absolutely worth it. I think the other 30% was spent on the photographer, and there's a little bit that was spent on the wedding and the venue and the
we stood on
dinners.
The side of the cliff. Look, we both have been married. Neither of us really needed bougie, crazy. It was in the middle of COVID, so it was just like, you know what? We really don't need a huge wedding. Yeah. We don't want it.
We didn't want it.
We didn't want it. I literally, I said it, and I meant it. I could have very easily gone down to the courthouse, signed a piece of paper, said I do, been done. Been like, great, let's do this, you know? And I think you kind of felt the same way, but obviously you do want something a little special and nice and girly and get dressed up and buy a dress.
Well, I'd rather be married in nature than in an
which we
institution.
Did that. Which you had building. 2 wedding dresses. Do you want to tell everybody why you had 2 wedding dresses?
So we did a pre-wedding.
People think this was just we walked up to the cliff and got married. No, Sax did have a plan, and it was kind of bougie-ish.
Yeah, so we brought our kids and your mom and our film guys down and some of our dear friends, and we had a pretend wedding day. It was
we didn't
the day
really bring friends, though.
No, they were wedding crashers.
We didn't invite really anybody.
Right.
But we had some friends that found out.
Yeah.
When we were getting married.
I'll get to that whole story in 1 second. Yeah. So we had a small group of people, is what that wraps up to be, that came down with us, and we brought our razors because we got married in Moab, and we did a typical day in Moab, except it was super freezing.
Yeah.
And I bought a dress off Amazon for $99, and
which was really pretty. It was really nice.
It was really pretty. Yeah. Didn't quite fit properly, but whatever. We knew it was gonna get trashed, and we were taking it to the desert. And you had I think it's just an Amazon suit.
Yeah.
And we rallied, and we climbed rocks, and we
did a photo shoot. It was kind of like our what do they call them? Our wedding pictures.
Engagement photos.
Yeah, our engagement photos.
The day before we got married.
We basically thought it would be cool to go. And I had like a black suit, and you had this white dress, and it looked really cool. But we went literally on the razors and went out into the desert and stood on these random cliffs and cool places that we had been, like on our 4-wheelers and stuff like that prior.
Because we're big fans of Moab.
Yeah, and it was just really fun. Like Sax got changed in a box trailer and did her makeup and her hair with
Jen
her friends.
solemnly laced up my corset.
Yeah, out in the middle of the desert. And the kids were all there, and it was fun. But we got some really fucking rad shots.
Yeah.
Like one of our favorite pictures, one of my favorite pictures of us was the one that we were walking together.
That's a great one.
That's one of my favorite pictures of us.
And then we ended it with me begging and pleading to jump in the pool together.
Tell everybody about that, because it actually went viral.
It did.
I wish I could find it. I could probably find it, but the last I checked, it was something like 36 million or 38 million
Huge engagement.
People had engaged with this post, and it was funny because we should actually put a link. We'll put a link to the post, but tell everybody about that.
Yeah.
While I try and find it.
So it was the end of the night. It's February in Moab. It's very cold in the desert. It's not, warm Moab time. And I really wanted to jump in the pool just to do it. Like it just sounded like something that would be so fun.
You wanted to get a picture. You were after the picture. You wanted the jumping in the pool picture. And I didn't want to do it. Not because I didn't want to participate or whatever. I just didn't want to jump in the fucking pool with my clothes.
Yeah, it was it was just something that was like not a burden, but it was something
that you really wanted to do. And this is a good lesson, because the post, I think, went viral for a reason. But it was something that you wanted. You were like, I want to jump in the pool. I want to get a picture of us jumping in the pool. And I'm like, babe, we don't need that. We spent all day outside.
I was like, I
really don't want to jump into the pool. And it wasn't because I had some bougie suit or you had a bougie dress. It was just, I just didn't want to fucking do it. Like, I was like, I'm not going to be made to do something I don't want to do. And I was kind of resistant to it. And you were like, no, we need to do it. It's going to be so cool and whatever. And then I was like, okay, this is like lesson number 1 in marriage. Not that she's making me do this, but this is something that's important to her.
Right.
And so I want to make it important to me. And I want to show that if I want you to do things with me that you aren't necessarily keen on or jacked up on or whatever, then I have to be able to do the same and be willing to do the same.
Right.
And that was a very big lesson.
So we ended up with great pictures. We ended up soaking wet in the pool in our wedding attire, then in the hot tub in our wedding attire, which was funny because there's this picture where like my wedding dress is floating up in the hot tub and our hair's all wet. And it was just great. So that was the day before our wedding. And then the day of, I had my real dress and the whole, it was more traditional and formal. But yeah, I paid $60 and got a permit to stand on a cliff. And we took some epic pictures with an epic photographer. The one good thing about the photography that I didn't consider was when you pick someone local who's like an expert at where you're getting married. So our girl knew exactly where to be at exactly each minute for the sunset. So she nailed it. She did such a great job. And it's like, if I thought about it, it's like if we would have brought a photographer from up here, they probably wouldn't have that experience because we got married on a cliff where it looks down, it's Dead Horse Point, and it's just epic. Like it's
we'll
epic.
have Richie. You can throw in a couple pictures right now so people can see some of the pictures we're talking about. Yeah. It really was very, very, very spectacular, but she was good because she knew each moment as the sun was decreasing, like where to go, what to shoot, where to go.
Golden hour.
And so there were these people that were kind of standing in the way, and she'd like walk over and be like, we have a permit literally to stand in this spot.
Right now.
We have a permit for this. And I'm like, do we really have a permit to stand in this spot? She's like, well, sort of, but not really. You know what I mean? But it was the pictures turned out unbelievable. Here's the post. It has 54,000 comments alone. So almost 55,000 comments
so
just on this post. I'm trying to pull up the whole post, but I believe it's 36 or 38 million impressions. And I think this was a great lesson for me. And should I just read it? Should I read it? Because it's really good.
Sure.
Does that matter?
The thing is like we're sharing this to add value and perspective to like
what we've learned over the last 2 years.
What we've learned. That's ultimately.
Okay, I'll read this just for 1 second. I'll read part of it.
Okay.
I wrote the last, and this is a huge lesson because we want to just share today some of our lessons, some of the things we've learned over the last year, 2 years of marriage. I wrote, quote, the last thing I wanted to do was jump in the damn pool with my clothes on. I didn't care about the pics or the photo op. Real talk, I couldn't have cared any less about the pool jump, but she did. She wanted it. My wife has been married before, but never really had the proper wedding. It was down at the courthouse, kind of the whole thing. And this time she had a dream. She wanted the gown and the flowers and the location and the cake and the photographers. She wanted the fairy tale, and really I'd have been just fine down at the courthouse. Now, you didn't necessarily need to have everybody there, but you definitely wanted to look pretty and have the pretty and make it a special deal. So I don't want it to seem like we were both like, oh, fuck it, we don't really care. We like rolled up in our jeans and Jordans. We're like, all right, let's do this. We could have done that, and we would have been fine. But you definitely wanted there to be some special, some catch to it.
I mean,
right?
I had some pretty things about my past weddings, but this was the first. I don't want to go down that road, but
it doesn't matter. You wanted something
this
special.
Was very, very important.
You wanted it to be important, and I want to make that point because this is a huge lesson for me, and I think this is great that we bring this up. It is not just in the last year, but like in this marriage, in our marriage. This is one of the things that I've learned is that there's a lot of things that I don't really give a fuck about. There's a lot of things I don't care about that you do, and vice versa. There's a lot of things that I care about that you don't care about. You don't care about racing cars. You could give two shits. Like you literally still haven't even driven my Lamborghini. You could care less about driving race cars or fighting or MMA or any other stuff.
I'm more into fighting than racing cars.
But you're very much a willing participant, and not because you're trying to get something out of it or, it's not a game. We haven't gamified I did this for you, now you have to do this for me.
It's just bargaining in relationships. It's not compromising, it's bargaining. I like the difference in that. And
right.
We have an
but
author
it's a choice because we both want to grow. And we both want to grow together. And that's been a huge lesson for me because, I couldn't get Summer, my ex-wife, to give a rat's ass about fighting at all, about MMA at all. I'd want to sit down and watch the UFC fights. She could care less. Absolutely could care less. Wouldn't do that, right? And it was like, but when The Bachelor was on, heaven forbid, right? I had to watch The Bachelor kind of a thing. And I share this simply because there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that feel like, and we've talked to a lot of people about this, and I know because we had the feedback where they feel like they're kind of, they have to stand their ground or plant their flag like, no, I'm going to be defiant, like this isn't my thing and whatever. And it becomes a point of contention when the reality is it's not that big of a deal, right? And so I went on to share that I said this time she had a dream, she wanted the gown, so I jumped in the pool. Not because she made me, not because she'd have been mad or held it over me. She isn't like that. I did it because it was important to her. Yeah. And that was the point that I wanted to make. So I jumped in the pool. Because I love her, because I love her dreams and her desires, and I jumped in the pool. Not for the photo, I jumped in the pool for her. And I think, one of the things, remember there was all those dudes, like those soy boys, they like chopped this video up. There were so many people. There was actually a whole bunch of dudes on YouTube that like did mockery videos of this, like that I was some simp and I was this like beta boy that was just owned by this woman kind of a thing. And I think one of the things that you and I have gotten a lot better at, which I think has helped us become significantly more powerful together, is that we truly support one another. Yeah. And I don't know that very many people understand what that means. It doesn't mean that I have to, that if I go do something that I'm not passionate about, that I'm some simp and that I'm some pussy who's just getting run over by my wife. Because the truth of the matter is, fellas, if you're listening, there's a whole bunch of shit that you probably like and or want to do that your wife doesn't give a flying fuck about. But what you would want her to. And I mean, look, you can go hunting with the boys, but instead of having to like sneak around and, oh shit, how much did I buy this year? Or how much gear did I get? Or what guns did I buy? Or where am I going? Or how much time am I taking off? How dope would it be if you actually had a partnership and a connection with your wife where she supported you hunting and encouraged you to go hunting, right? And that comes by aligning yourselves together and participating in things together that might not necessarily be your jam. So when she's like, hey, let's go to this cooking class. Hey, let's go to this thing. Hey, let's go do the wine and the painting thing on Wednesday night for date night. And you're like, fuck, dude, that's dumb, whatever. Yeah. Just remember that when it's hunting time or when it's fishing time or when it's fight time, and she's like, I don't really give a shit. And you're like, well, the whole thing. I think it's actually helped us. I think I think you and I both have learned that we can either plant our flag and be like defiant, be like, I'm not jumping in the pool, fuck that shit. Or, this is important to you, I'll participate.
Well, and in my opinion, it's like when you marry someone, like you're there to help encourage their life and their dreams. Right. And it's like amplify the good that they already have going on. And, you know, it's like, why would I not want to, if you have dreams or ambitions and I love you, why would I put like drag on that?
Right. Or restrictions.
Or restriction. And
box.
And this is all within reason, people, like that. But it's like, I don't think partners should be with each other unless they're in it to help build the other person's dreams, both together. Like, it's not one-sided. And so those guys were really funny about that, because I'm like, I can't imagine what the women in their life are, what they're like. Yeah, I know. Yeah. We went through that. But why would you not want to not do everything that your partner wants, but if it's something that's dear to them, like, what do you have to lose for doing that?
Right.
If anything, that pays dividends in a bank account, in an emotional relationship bank account that will pay incredible returns if you do things like that. I want to
use the racing as an example. You know, I don't see very many families and or spouses. There's a couple of guys like Jason and like Jason Bell's wife. We met Jason Bell's wife. But I don't see very many families like coming out to the racetrack. Now, again, I'm not judging. Who knows? Maybe they are there and I don't know. But from what I see, walking up and down the paddock, walking up and down the garages, seeing my family and my kids have, you know, the comms on and having the stuff being literally in the pit with me and you being with me in the pit, a lot of guys probably look at that and be like, oh, dude, this is my time away. This is my this is my that. And I understand that. I really do get that. Yeah. Like, there's days where I'm like, yo, babe, I'm going to the gym and I just don't want to go with you. Like, I just want to go by myself. I'm going to go smoke my cigar. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to go play poker with the boys for a couple hours, kind of a deal. And you're like, cool, no sweat. There's times where you're like, hey, I'm going to go out to dinner with the girls. I'm going to go do this, whatever. I'm going to go get my nails done. Great. You know, but I truly believe that, like, this dynamic of relationship and marriage, it's interesting because it's almost like we have our own separate things and our own separate lives, and like I don't get involved in his shit and I don't get involved in her shit, where I feel like there's a lot of resistance with that. There's a lot of, I don't say animosity, but almost animosity, where there's like, well, you got more of this than I did of this. You got more poker nights than I did of this. Or you spent more money on racing than I spent on getting whatever, my jewelry, whatever it is. And to me, it's like, it's backwards. And one of the things I enjoy about our relationship and our dynamic is like, we don't do that. There is no scorekeeping, no gamekeeping, no this, that, or the other. I mean, you know that I love racing, and I'm going to race one way or the other, right? I don't ask you to race. I tell you that I'm going to go race, and this is what's going on. And obviously, we involve the family. But like, I want my family there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if I didn't, I'd be very clear and say, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. You know, whatever. But I feel like right now there's so much, so many wedges that are put in between in marriages, where if you actually stopped for a second and realized jumping in the pool is not my thing. I don't really care about the picture. We got a great picture out of it, and it's awesome, and it made for some great content, and it was a viral post, and it's awesome and cool, but like, it just wasn't my jam. Sure. But I realized that it was your jam, and I want to support you. And it doesn't make me less of a man to do something that you want to do. It doesn't make me less of a husband. It doesn't make me less of a man to go do the wine and paint night, or to go do this, or to say, hey, babe, come hunting with me, or come to the racetrack with me, or come shoot with me, whatever it is. Yeah. It doesn't make me any less of a man. In fact, I think it's one of the things that strengthens our relationship and truly has built a bond where we pretty much do everything together. And what's fascinating to me, maybe it's fascinating, maybe it's just something that I appreciate, is a lot of the couples that I look to, like that I don't say look up to, but that I like their dynamic. You know, the Grant and Elena Cardones of the world, Tony and Sage Robbins, they're always together. Yeah. They're always together. And they talk about it openly. You know what I mean? They talk about supporting each other and being a team, a true team, right? Yeah. And look, you might be selling insurance and she might be a stay-at-home mom and you might have just nothing in common or whatever, but you're a fucking team.
Yeah, you are.
You're a team. And if you sign up to be with somebody, be a fucking teammate. Like, be a true teammate. If you're playing basketball and you're like, fuck my teammates, and you try and be a one-man basketball team, you're going to suck, you're going to lose. Period. End of story. Like LeBron James is great and all, but LeBron James could not beat a professional basketball team by himself. Well, Sean, he scores only. No, you don't understand. It wouldn't work. He could literally never win. He would never win championships. He would never be the best. But yet you play with a team, and you be a teammate, and you can dominate the world. You know what I mean? But even those quote unquote power couples, they're teammates.
Right.
And I find that the couples that are truly aligning in each other's passions, in each other's excitement, in each other's dreams and visions are winning really, really, really big.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think that it takes this is kind of like the episode yesterday. It takes a very confident person to do that instead of just be in the limelight and have the other person to kind of in the shadows of things. And if that dynamic works for you, cool. We're not judging that. But that led right into our biggest takeaways of our first 2 years of marriage. You nailed on two very good things.
Yeah, those are huge.
What do you think? Because we did an episode on this. We almost got divorced earlier, or when was that?
About a year
ago. And we didn't almost get divorced, but we were
close. We were struggling really bad.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
really hard. We're like big time struggles.
I want us to both share, because we shared then, but I think we've even evolved so much more since that episode. I have, for sure. What do you feel? And you can say more than one thing, whatever you want to say. But what is the biggest thing that you learned during that brought us better today, like where we are, to being very, very, very far from divorce?
Oh, dude, and when we say divorce, we were talking about it. Like that's where we got to. We were like, we don't think this can work. We don't think we can work together. Yeah. You know, and that was where we were. And to me, it was just part of the game. It was part of the matrix, part of the experience of this dynamic. It was like, oh, you're just in the honeymoon phase and it's just going to be roses and sunshine. But it's like, no, if you guys truly if you truly mean what you mean, if you truly think you are who you are, and you're truly asking for the dynamic and the depth of this reality, this is what has to happen.
Right.
And I believe it was absolutely divine. It was without question part of the plan for us.
1,000%.
Which sounds weird, and I'm not some sadomasochist guy where I'm like, yeah, bring me all the fucking shit, and I want all of the troubles, and bring me all of the demons and stuff. But,
no, but I believe God, though. It's like if you ask him for something big, he will. It's not a test. I don't like the idea of testing, but he'll be like, okay, then show yourself that you are. It's not
if you want to carry,
because I believe God believes in you no matter what. But it's like show yourself that you're really in it. And we were like, whoa, actually, whoa, actually, until we learned.
Look, if you just I love the simplistic thoughts, right? I was talking about if you can't explain it by drawing it on a whiteboard, it's too complex. But if you're asking for stronger shoulders and more, right? And God puts a giant bag of, beans on your shoulder, you're going to know whether or not you can carry it.
Yep.
If you're like, yo, I want more, give me more. I've been carrying around this little sack of peanuts. Give me a big giant bag. And he puts the fucking bag on your shoulders. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to carry it or you're not.
Yeah.
Or you're going to have to figure out how to fucking carry it. Simple. I mean, that's really what God is doing. God's going to give you financial challenges, emotional challenges, these challenges, because I truly believe there's no one that wakes up in the morning and says, God, I don't want anything. Take it all from me, right? Now, there's weird people that would say weird things and say, no, God, take it all away. I don't want all of these struggles and all of these trials. Come on, man. That's just some basic level shit. Yeah. But I truly believe if you are a Christian, if you are a human being who wants to enjoy life, who wants to growth, I feel like you and I are a little bit further down that path, perhaps, or you and I have lived 50,000 lifetimes in our 39 and 44 years of experience. But I truly believe we're both in that place where we're like, bring it on.
Yeah.
Bring it on. And not in some yeah, fuck you, God, we're going to show you. But it's truly look, man, we've got two choices today. We can play basic bitch life, or we can fucking have it all.
Yep.
We want it all. God, give it to us. And all of a sudden, God's like, okay, here you go. And to me, the very simple vision of it is when you think about being in a relationship, I don't care if you've been in a relationship for a day, a year, or 50 years. Like this applies to everybody. Like when you talk about mirrors and you talk about this, you talk about that, but when you talk about really connecting with another human being, it's allowing that person inside. It's allowing them into your heart. It's opening up your heart. For me, it was that I'd never trusted anybody. I'd never been all in. I'd never played all in. I'd never truly allowed someone all in. I'd played with half of the deck of cards, and I built a great life. And I always used to joke, like, I had a very good, simple life. Like, no, what was the word that I used? Not average, but whatever it is. I would joke about it. Like, I've got a very good basic life, but I wanted more. You know what I mean? And I truly believe that dynamic of allowing somebody in fully, not like, well, yeah, we're all in. And a lot of people think you're all in just because you're not fucking other people. A lot of people think you're all in just because you said I do, and somehow we're like, we sleep in the same bed at night, but emotionally you're someplace else. Yeah. Psychologically you're someplace else. Physically, and a lot of times you're someplace else. And so, like, when you plant that flag and you declare I'm all in, I had never done that before. And so for me, what I realized is, like, when we got married, it was the butterflies and it was the fairy tale, and it was great, and look cool, like we like our sex life, and we like a lot of the same things, and you smell good and I smell good, and you're good looking, and and it was a lot of the basic things. And at that year mark, it was like God's going, okay, here's a giant bag of fucking beans I'm gonna throw on your shoulders. Let's see if you can carry it. And we were both like, fuck this. And so for me, I realized that as I was asking for more, I had to become stronger. I had to become more dynamic in who I was as a human being, as a man, as a patriarch, as a father, as a husband, right? There were a lot of things that I knew and I saw. It was like you were rooting around with the flashlight, in the darkness, in the soul, whatever you want to call it, and you'd shine a light over here and I'd be like, fuck you, bitch, like, leave that alone. Don't touch that. No, don't touch that. Don't touch that. And it was like, I get that could be my dynamic, but the reality is, if I play this game, I know what the result's going to be. Yeah. I know that we'll end up divorced. I know that if I kick and scream and act like an asshole and go down this path, I'll just end up divorced. And I could blame you, and I could blame this, and do all the same things that I had been very accustomed to doing. Yeah. Or I could go all in. And I had to define that for myself. I had to redefine what all in really meant, because I knew what I had gotten prior, and I knew what playing this level of the game would get me. And it was like, in order for me to play this next level of the game, I'm going to have to strengthen my shoulders to be able to carry more. Right. Emotionally, psychologically, physically, spiritually, in all of these facets. And I think for me, this is the long answer to your question, but it's my truth. Like, I had to evolve individually, knowing that in order to be with someone who was going to do that and be that flashlight in the soul, I had to figure out how to navigate that. I had to figure out how to deal with that. Yeah. Because, like, you'd open up a door and I would want to, like, run and slam the door and be like, fuck that shit. No, we're not going there. You know what I mean? And I was very much a victim, and I was very much like, still in that state of, like, not being able to truly, like, surrender to those emotions and those feelings. Would get them, and it was like a war. It was just like a war. And I was like telling God, give me more. No, not that more, this more. I want that, not this. You know what I mean? This I don't like. This is okay, you know? And so for me, I had to physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, number one, figure out how to be all in. And then number two, how to become the man that could be all in. And then supporting that and knowing that it was not a static thing, that it was an evolving, moving experience. And so as these doors opened, instead of being this reactionary creature that would run and try and slam it, I would stand and I would hold space for it. And then it would be like, okay, I didn't like that. That didn't feel good. Okay, here's my ownership. Here's my deal. Here's how I can communicate that to my wife. Okay, cool. Next door. Well, this one doesn't feel good either. But and it became, and I think you and I would probably agree, like, with this, like, our fights, quote unquote, have shortened. Our duration of emotional disconnect has shortened. The shit that we fight about and argue about has shortened.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that we would get triggered by and pissed off about and whatever, it's not there anymore. We still fucking fight.
Sure.
We still argue. We still have disconnect. There's still stuff that fucking sucks that we both acknowledge, but like, I think both of us have evolved significantly to become the people that could be and would be all in a relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I completely agree with you. I agree with you so much. And I actually think about this a lot. This is an often thought for me, because one of the biggest things, and I've learned a lot, is what ended up like at our breaking point was two things. I was not speaking my truth, and I was catastrophizing things based on my nervous system. And this sounds very basic, but it's real, and it's traumatic, and it's chaotic, and it's very, very, very real when it's happening. So my nervous system would catastrophize something, and I would just be like, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this. And I would go into the self-protection mode, and I could easily make Sean a villain. Like, easily. Mm-hmm. And I look back, and part of my self-reflection is I don't punish myself for the way I was then. I don't sit around and think, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have said that, because I did. What I said then was what I was feeling and what I needed to process. Right. Now, I said and felt a lot of things that I would not agree with today, based on the fact that I was seeing through a more immature lens of my own growth and experiences that I have now. Mm-hmm. Like, I look back and it's like, I remember being upset with you about, I could justify that you were some bad guy in some way in my mind, right? But truthfully, I'm a willing participant in something, and I'm also a contributing participant. And when I started really taking ownership of not just what I was saying and doing, but how I was, maybe why I was reacting or feeling so extreme in the ways, it was a lot me. Like, it didn't mean that what was happening was okay and that I like it, but I realized that I was perpetuating something based on my own inability to hold myself grounded and to let things pass by instead of hold on to them, or take like an energy level and I would attribute it back to something else, and it would freak me out. And what happened with me is I built almost like a case. And I had this big case where I was like, look at all this shit. See, it's all right here. I don't want to play this. I don't want to do this. You kept a journal
of all of the mean, like months.
I did.
Of all of the mean shit that I would say, or all of my problems, or all of my things. And I remember one time you sitting down trying to read it to me. You're like, I've been keeping notes for the last month.
Yes,
and I want to read to you all of these days. 30 days ago, you said this on this day. And then you said and did this.
Here's my logic, and I think some people will understand why. It was never to have ammunition against you, truly, because I didn't want it. What it was is that I needed to be heard and understood. But what the part that I missed, that I know, and I'm sure I have so much more to learn, is that what I needed to hear and to be acknowledged by was myself. Yeah. And that meant when things happen that I don't like, I decide how much they affect me. Right. I decide what I want to do with them. And what you focus on grows. Yep. And I was really good at that point in time and focusing on what I didn't like in my marriage. And I built a case to myself, and I was justified in all the things. Even though I wanted to be with you, it was so the ego goes to what it's comfortable with, right? And me, it was like, I was comfortable with being independent and not having somebody ruffle my feathers, and you really ruffled my feathers, and I fell victim in that. I allowed myself to become this victim. And now it's like, okay, I realize, like, I look back and it's like, I'm very gentle with that woman in that phase, because we ripped off Band-Aids really fast, and we ripped off a lot of them because we both made a decision that, were we going to stay in and look at this and look at our ownership in this, and these are our patterns, both of us, and when we put them together, it was like an atom bomb, right? And so my biggest thing now is that I am so grateful that I can look back on what happened, be grateful that it happened, knowing that it absolutely was necessary. Also being gentle with myself and not judging myself for not knowing what I didn't know at the time.
Right.
And so when things happen now, it's so much easier now when we have conflict, because our conflict hasn't changed. Like, it's still the same conflict we had then. It's how we respond to it that we're so different now. And now it's like, okay, I don't like this, but it's not a catastrophe. Sean's not being a villain. Sean's in his own shit right now, handling his own stuff, just as am I. And like, I get to choose how I react to this. And I thought I knew that then. And I probably think I know it now. And next year when we do this episode again, it'll be interesting to see how much we've changed once again, but dramatically different in my perspective and allowing things to not be like I felt. Oh, you know what another one was, kind of goes with this, is I felt like I always had to do something. There always had to be an action. And I remember so incredibly vividly, I had a dream and God was like, stop, just hold still for a second. And I remember like, what? He's like, you don't have to do anything. Just be for a second. And the idea of just being and just sitting in something and not taking action was like really difficult, because I'm really good at executing and getting things done. And it was like sitting in my shit and sitting in something was hard.
We both had to do very individualistic work, very individual work,
while trusting the other to hold space while they're in their shit. I
think that a lot of people have asked, what does that mean, holding space? I've gotten that so many times from people, and it's wildly and ridiculously difficult to do, yet it is, without question, in my opinion, probably one of the nuances of marriage that really is at the root of connection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like when you're able to hold space, one of the things that you and I were really good at is like if I lit the match, you'd pour gas on it. And vice versa. If you lit the match, I would just get the fucking WD-40 and I'd like light the blowtorch.
Why are you acting like this?
And meanwhile, we both did that, right? And we were both very much antagonistic towards the other and very quick to jump on, find fault with, villainize, blame the other.
For sure.
Right? And really, it's childlike behavior 101. It's the kid gets sad, you throw the temper tantrum, and the temper tantrum just gets fucking out of control. Next thing you know, you're on the ground screaming, rolling around, and you don't even know why you're mad anymore. You're just doing it to have a temper tantrum, right?
Yeah.
But I think like that holding space dynamic, I'd never really been good at it. I had no idea.
Because you're also an action executor, just like I am.
Well, I would steamroll everybody, and you would steamroll everybody. And if you look at the people in our past, they're not anything remotely close to what you and I are with today.
On an intensity level. Or
on an intensity, on an energetic level, on the ferocity scale, you and I were used to playing, and this is no disrespect, this is where we were with people that were on like a 2 on a scale of 10, and you and I are 12s.
Right.
And so what was really interesting is like that holding space. I had to get to that place where I learned, and this is something that I've been working on a lot over the last year, like when you turn into psycho mode, I just kind of step back. And I'm like, cool, let her just be a psycho for a minute, dude. Like, whatever. It has nothing to do with you. She's just being a psycho right now.
Be a psycho.
And every now and again, I like to throw a punch here or there. I'll throw a jab, or I'll, whatever, just because it's what I do, and vice versa. But the same thing with me. When I go into burn the motherfucker to the ground, psycho mode, you can either throw the jabs and throw the punches, or you just kind of go, well, fuck you. I'm just going to go for a drive, or I'm not going to play your games. And at first it made me want to rage even more. And it makes you want to rage even more, because those stories just, oh my God, the stories that we would take, you talk about turning a molehill into a mountain. Like we turned like a grain of salt into the fucking Mount Everest. Like we just would start here and we'd end up someplace, and I think 90% of the time we didn't even know why we started fucking fighting, or why we were even upset, or what we were even pissed about.
Well, and Jordan Peterson, I believe it's Jordan Peterson, talks about how the mind needs to have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So when you leave the mind without an answer, especially in a traumatic place,
Oh, yeah.
it will create its own answer because it
we're
will
professionals at this.
Right, but I recently saw him talk about this, and it's like the mind will create its own story because it needs to have an understanding and a story. And that's where we would get caught is our own minds not fully trusting the other, not fully having enough like footing under us. Like we would create our own story because we needed to have a story.
You had to connect to something. And this is where holding space is almost just imagining it, let's take this 2 seconds to share people with what our vision of the space is and what we've learned about it. Because I think we deal with a lot of the same things that other people deal with.
For sure.
Like, very realistic. Space is almost like this void. It's almost like stepping back, like letting you light the match. And I know that I've got the can of WD-40, but I just step back. And I know that eventually that match is going to burn its way down and go out. I just need to give it a little bit of time. Right? And there's nothing that I can really do. I can blow on it, or I can try and fan it, or I can try and here's a cup of water. You want to put it out in water. But the very realistic vision of that is simply imagining a match, and you give it a minute and it'll go out. It will end, and it does. And me not fanning the flames, pouring gas on it, spraying WD-40, which is what I'm an expert at, which is what you're an expert at, which is what I think a lot of people are experts at. But holding space is truly allowing that other person to just hold the match for a second, let them have their experience with it, let them do whatever they need to do, and then coming back to a place of normality where it doesn't have to be this huge catastrophic thing every single time.
Right.
And that's something that I think you and I have learned is when you hold space, it's really, really, really hard if you have trust issues. You and I have big trust issues. We've had big trust issues. And when we got together, we had massive trust issues that we felt that we didn't have any and that we were solving them. And as we both got together, we both realized, holy shit, we're going to have to rip all the Band-Aids off. Sure. But in order to truly, truly, truly build a foundation of trust, you have to allow the other person to have their experience. You have to allow them to be mad. I have to allow you to be a dick sometimes, and vice versa with me. Now, that doesn't mean that you become a punching bag. Nope. That doesn't mean you allow somebody to talk to you like shit. That's just the dynamic of actually having self-respect. I don't call you names and call you a cunt and throw shit at you, and you don't do that to me either, because we have self-respect, right? So if we're having to have conversations about why you shouldn't call your spouse a name, or ladies calling him a deadbeat, or fellas calling her a bitch or a whore or whatever, that's a way bigger fucking issue that you got to deal with on your own, because you're just an asshole. I mean, you got to stop being an asshole. But when you really think about it, being able to be in a place where you can let that person have the temper tantrum, it's just like a child. You take a child, if you got any kids, guys, you know what I'm talking about. The kid throws a temper tantrum. The more you try and freaking engage with the kid, solve the problem, fix the thing, most of the time it just infuriates the kid. You're telling him to stop. You're telling him that it's not real. Don't, you shouldn't have this emotion and this feeling. What does a child do? They fucking continue to have the experience. But what happens when you just leave the kid and you walk into the kitchen and go make a sandwich?
However.
Let me finish.
Okay.
That kid will always stop having the temper tantrum, right? Now, I know what you're going to say about coming.
This is one of our newer lessons.
And I'm sharing kind of the simplistic dynamics 101 of holding space and what it really means, and allowing that person to have that experience, but truly not coming off your own mountain and your own place to get involved with them. We've had a number of experiences with this where you'll be like, hey, I'm having a fuck all day. I'm ready to burn the whole thing down. This has nothing to do with you. I just need to go do my thing. And I'm like, cool. Now my mind and the story goes to, whoa, wait a second. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss something? Are you really mad at me, but I just don't, you're not wanting to tell me? Is this one of those stories? I have to become impeccable with my word, and you have to become impeccable with your word to the point where you're like, no, I just need some space, or I'm pissed off and this is what it is, so on and so forth. And holding space truly is allowing you to have whatever experience you need to have. And me not altering my course, me continuing to love, me continuing to support, me continuing to be wherever. If you need me for something, I'm there. Yeah. If you're telling me, give me some space, I give you some space, right? And it's not taking anything personally.
The part though that I want to make sure we make clear is you said the word leave. Now, when you have a partner, because this is one we're still learning, is holding space does not necessarily mean leaving. That means not trying to fix. So Sean, this is one that comes up a lot because I don't want Sean to leave. I want Sean to just give me a hug when I'm just bawling my eyes out over something, right? And his idea is you just go handle your shit and let me know. And it's like, no, that was the opposite of what I needed. Holding space for me is not trying to ask me with your logical mind what I need, because I might not fucking know what I need. I need a hug. 99% of the time, Saxony just wants, honestly, that's true. It's like, I just want my husband to see that I'm struggling with something, give me a hug, and just say, hey, I love you.
Right.
Like, that's it. So leaving has been part of our problem in the past. Is I'm like, no, leaving is you checking out because you don't want to be in this with me. And so this is this dance of, so I want to be very clear, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, Sean said leave. Let's leave. And that's, I know what you mean.
When I need that space.
Okay, that's another however. I have lots of howevers right now. However, Sean, when Sean gets heated, the best thing that he does for himself is he quote unquote leaves.
Right.
Now that's where I'm saying is it's different. Right. You need to, and it's really good to have these conversations with your partner when you're not elevated. Have these, but when you're on date night, when you're like happy go lucky, because
go eat a couple mushrooms together and freaking, get naked, if you will.
Only where it's legal, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm just kidding. But with you, it's like I had to understand that, because when we were struggling, like, you would leave multiple nights in a row to go smoke a cigar, and that's what you were doing, or you would go to the gym. And I realized it's like, okay, Sean just needs to do that, and probably because he just doesn't want to say something he's going to regret, and that's his time to like air it out. That's a way more masculine thing. Where me, it's like, I don't want to be left. I want you to like grab me and literally pull me in your bare arms and just like give me a big old hug, because you're that person for me. Like, you're my guy. There's no
emphasize to everybody that this is very new for us too. Like, this,
that's
I look at the phases. Phase one.
That's what I said. This is our newest thing.
Let the person hold the match. Let it burn down. Let it get to that thing. It's not going to be as catastrophic as you think it's going to be. Don't pour gas on the fire. Do your thing, right? Phase two is where you can actually step into this person who's struggling, dealing with shit, whatever else, where you can step into their world and actually give them something that you might not necessarily know how to give them.
Yeah. Right. And we've learned this. This also came up recently. We went to a retreat, and this was a big thing, is we got to tell each other what it was that we needed in those particular moments. And it's funny because it seems to be always something simple, but the other person, you will find that your ego and your pride is like, fuck that.
Totally.
I'm not going to give that person that for $10 million in return.
Yeah. When Sax goes off, when Sax, I mean, look, she's very cute and nice. You guys see her on social media, like, oh my God, she's so bubbly,
fiery.
Sax is like, she goes down a rabbit hole and becomes a fucking lunatic. Like,
I do not.
Yes, you do.
A lunatic.
Sax. There are times, just like me, that Sax is not fucking nice.
Sure.
Sax says some mean shit, some fucked up shit that's really not cool.
But a lunatic is a lunatic.
Well, there are times. I mean, look at your... Yeah, anyways.
Are you jealous that I'm wearing feathers?
You have a fucking pill... Whatever. Where was I?
You were making fun of my cute outfit.
For the lunatic comment. Oh, I remember where I was going. To follow in what Sax was saying is, phase one for us is kind of what we've already described. Phase two is what we're talking about now, which is, I want her to leave me the hell alone sometimes. Sometimes I don't. And she wants me to hug her and to speak kind words and to tell her that she'll be safe and tell her that she'll be all right and I'm not going anywhere. Now, understand, when she goes down her lunatic rabbit hole, the last fucking thing I want to do is do that. It's literally the last thing I want to do.
For sure.
Right?
You'd rather go to the dentist or...
Fuck the dentist.
I know. That's the last on your list.
I'll hug you before I go to the dentist. It's close to the last thing I want to do on my list. But what I'm saying and getting at is the ego is so wild in that reality, because we were in a place in this retreat, and we're doing work now significantly deeper than we've ever done, both individually and collectively together, where when you can be really vulnerable and you can be really open, and you're not in a place of attack. Because most of the time we talk about fighting when we're fighting. Most of the time we talk about, how we got to resolve these issues when we're in the fucking issue.
Yeah.
And it's the old saying, like, you're never going to resolve a situation from the same place that it was created. You're never going to resolve a problem from the same place it was created. And so we had to get to a place where we became practitioners of talking about war and chaos in a place of peace, right? When we're here.
Right.
And when you're very vulnerable and you're open to being vulnerable. And so now kind of the whole new level for us of holding space is not just distancing or letting each other solve our own things together. It's
Which is important.
It's
you
very
need
important
to know how to solve your own problems.
Correct.
Because we're not promoting codependency by any means, but it's
Correct.
being a supportive partner.
It's truly knowing when you're in a place of truth and authenticity, and I hate that word, but whatever. When you're able to truly tell your partner what you really want, and not like, well, I just want you to leave me the fuck alone, or you're in a mad spot, or you're in a chaos spot. But when you can truly become naked and say, my little kid. Mm-hmm. And this was one of the questions that came up with one of our friends that helped us through this retreat. It said, imagine the time when you were just absolutely raging pissed. Mm-hmm. Like raging pissed, like that Saxony or Sean like really hurt you, and you were in that little kid, you wanted to just throw the temper tantrum. What did you want him or her to do? Mm-hmm. And when you're in a place of radical transparency and vulnerability, and you can say, when she's like, I want Sean to hold me, to hug me, and to say these words, it's literally like the ego in me is going, no. What's next? Go down the list. What's the item 3, 4, and 5? Because I'll look at those, but that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because then that challenges my ego, and that takes me down. But that level of holding space, mm-hmm. in my opinion, that's where you get to a place of where when conflict arises, it's literally almost immediately resolved. Mm-hmm. It's almost, you can take these places of disconnect and almost reconnect almost instantly. Yeah. Instead of spending days or weeks or a day in friction, it's mm-hmm. like, this is what I need right now. And you have the audacity to step into your own ego and actually do it. Mm-hmm. To me, like, this is kind of holding space 2.0. Mm-hmm. I can only imagine what 4.0 looks like. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a huge lesson that you and I are working on and learning and really understanding. But like, this is where we are. This is what we're doing. This is what our space is like. Right.
I'm glad we share this because it's so easy. We don't like, it would be just as easy for us to not share these things with the world. Yeah. But I always feel that it's so important to be as truthful and as authentic as possible, because I've shared this before. When I was struggling with bulimia, I didn't know another human being on the planet that was sick. I didn't. Mm-hmm. There was no billboard, there was no magazine, there was no girlfriend. I literally thought I was the only one in the whole world with that problem. Well, then I got my 30s and I met a whole ton of people that had been mm-hmm. bulimic, and now it's like a common thing. I'm like, wait, but where were you? Yeah. Back when I was, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, when I'm like literally on the verge of death, not knowing anybody else, and I'm thinking that I'm some type of broken foreign object that doesn't belong here for real. So at that point in time in my life, it was like, I would rather wear all of my dirt, all of my whatever you want to call it, the shame that's really not shame. I'd rather just wear it because we're not much different than most people we coach. Like, mm-hmm. if anything, it's a gift to us that we have these experiences, because then we have perspective. Because if we didn't have, and this speaks for everybody, like if you don't have trials that you go through, how are you going to be able to serve in your life better? Like, how are you going to be able to be a better parent when you don't even have adversity? Like, there's so many things that this is such a beautiful treasure to have. And I'm not wishing more adversity and struggle on myself at all. But I take a responsibility for the fact that if these things happen, I would rather have it benefit the world and someone out there not feeling like they don't belong or their marriage is doomed. We have talked about this before. Like, we have had so many, like, I
Can
don't
I
even
share
think,
something?
Yeah.
Finish your thought.
I don't
while
even
pull
think
this
I
up.
could count how many messages I've received that we have literally, our truth and honesty in this type of stuff has rekindled or slash saved their marriage. And I don't believe we've done it. It's just the fact that we chose to be honest with. Yeah, it's just our transparency.
You saying that, I literally screenshotted this morning because our podcast yesterday was a very heated one, and it dropped this morning. The boys dropped it this morning, and at like 5 a.m. And by the time we woke up, it was like we had been tagged
a bunch,
dozens of times.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I did a very, very powerful share with this, and I got really fucking raw and like really cut the jugular. If you're following me on social media, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I talked about the boys and the little boys and the whole thing. And I
versus men.
Right. Yeah. And I screenshotted this comment literally probably 2 hours ago before we started this podcast. And the gentleman says, I did not expect to go on the offensive reading this, but it hit a nerve. One of my biggest goals in life is to try and figure out why things may offend me and other people, and I'm still putting pieces together as to why this struck the nerve that it did. I appreciate you sharing this so I can strive to be better as a man. Thank you, Sean Whalen, for the rebuke that I did not know I needed. Now, that's cool. I share that for a reason because if you go into the comments, there's a lot of people that are like, hell yeah. There's a lot of people that are like, fuck you. And then these are the comments that I know, and you and I have talked about this, that this is the calling. I mean, if you're a Christian and you read the Bible, if you read, any scripture, that Jesus talked about, if you can save it be just one soul.
Yeah.
How great shall be your joy.
I like right now I'm getting choked up about this.
Because we struggle. I'll tell you straight up, Sax and I struggle a lot. And we struggle. We had a conversation this morning because like this post really lit something with both of us. And it was, I don't really give a shit about the individual that posted it or what the reasoning is or why.
Right.
But I truly believe that these things come into our space and into our mindsets so that we can address them. We can talk about them.
Yeah.
It's like we're having this real life experience, you and I, with children and with life and with business and with our own fears and our own demons and our own struggles. And we can choose to brush them aside or walk past them or address them as they're coming, right? And yesterday was a big one. Like our podcast was fire yesterday, and we both got really, really, really intense because it's so powerful for us. But we also know that like what's out there is equally as powerful. And if the darkness is going to be as dark as it is, the light must shine as bright as it needs to overcome this. And so it's comments like this, guys, truthfully, a lot of people, I mean, look, Sax and I have giant fucking egos. We both know it. But I truly believe,
we also have giant hearts.
In order to do big things in life, you have to think highly of yourself. You have to care about people. You have to care about results. You have to care about other humans, right? And if you see someone waiting around in a pile of shit, you have to show them how you got out of the pile of shit. Now, whether or not they do is great.
Yeah.
Whether or not they do is totally up to them, but it's like our duty. We both believe this. Like it's why we are together. It's why Sax and I are together. It's why we literally a year ago like went as far down the rabbit hole as you could go, and God was like, "Okay, good job, well done.
Yeah,
here's a heavier bag now. I'm gonna throw another bag on your shoulders." And we're like, "Okay, fuck it, we can do this, right?" But we both opened up doors that we had never opened up with any other human, period, in our life. We both did work that, number one, we didn't want to do, but number two, that we'd never done with any other relationship.
We didn't even know we needed to do. We didn't even know.
This is why we share what we share. And this is why we talk about what we talk about. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of people now. And it might not. And that's totally fine. But I know me ripping what I ripped this morning on Facebook and sharing what God was like sending through me to have this, quote unquote, I appreciate you sharing this so I can strive to be a better man. Thank you for the rebuke that I did not know I needed. You know what I mean? Like if I can help one man wake up, like if you think about the ripples through eternity How many generations could be changed? How many generations could be now put down a different path? And this is true, man. I believe this. I believe this. I believe this is why we are here. Not just you and I, but all of you listening to this. You all have your own spheres. You all have your own lives. All of you that are listening to this that were married had your wedding day. You had your own pools that you jumped into. You had your own wedding cake you smashed in your partner's face. You had your own dreams and your own ambitions and your own loves and your own passions. And you had this grandiose vision for your life and this euphoric reality that you were going to build together. And maybe you're living that. Mazel tov to you. Hats off to you. Maybe you're not. Yeah. Maybe you're fucking hating life and you're just coasting through, or you're like on the verge of burning the fucking thing to the ground. I don't know. I don't really care. But like, I absolutely believe that it is our calling, me and you and I, to completely open ourselves up to where we are going, what we are doing, what we're experiencing, what we're seeing, so that we can share these little nuggets and these little podcasts and these hour-long conversations to somehow put it out there into the ethos, into the matrix, and someone's going to download it. Yeah. And someone's going to take a nugget. And all of you listening to this, I mean, we've had over, I think, 2 million. How many downloads have we had now? A couple million downloads of the podcast? Yeah. That's like, if you think about that, like how many people could ultimately change their marriage, change their dynamic by one conversation? Yeah. I say this with a lot of pride in what we're doing, but also as an encouragement to all of you listening to realize, like, number one, you're not too far gone wherever you are. Trust me and Sax, I mean, she wasn't even staying at the house. Like, she had moved into a different place and was like, we were ready to fucking literally call it quits. Yeah. We both know what it's like to be like, fuck you, I'm done. Yeah. I'm done. And move down that path to then say, no, we got to play a bigger game. And to do really, really, really hard fucking work. Because average is easy. Right. Oh, superficial. That's the word I was looking for. That's the word I was looking for. It just came to me. Yeah. I used to say that I had the best superficial relationship ever. Yeah. And I don't mean any disrespect with that, but that's the word. It was very, very, very superficial. There's nothing about you and I that's superficial. There's nothing that if you and I, like, when we're on it, we're on it. When we're down, we're down. When we're just rolling around and we're fucking cutting loose, like, it is real. Like, this is us. Yeah. These are the conversations we have in the dining room. These are the conversations we have in the bath. These are the conversations we have in the office. These are the conversations we're having in life, right? These are real world experiences that we're having. And I don't want superficial. And I don't think anybody listening to this wants superficial. I truly believe in my heart and my soul that people want, like, euphoric. They want goodness. Yeah. You want to be ravaged. You want to be cherished. You want to be loved. You want to be honored. And you want to give those things. Yeah. And our ego and our pride and our pain and our hurt and our past is so fucking powerful. So powerful. And if it is not conquered, it will win. If you do not conquer these mountains, you do not take on these challenges, if you do not put on literally the armor of God and go to war with your own ego, your own pride, your own fear, just the way I did, as the most prideful motherfucker on planet Earth, I am absolutely 150% ridiculously prideful in so many things, and wanted to blame my marriage on Saxony and wanted to blame my pain and wanted to blame my frustration. She's just like the rest of them. It's just like the same shit. At the end of the day, it's like, oh, wait a second. Yeah. I know this is my game to play. Right. Like, this is my burden to bear. Yeah. This is my cross to carry.
I love that you bring up that, because I can already hear some of the trolls, because I've heard this in the past of like, oh, well, marriage isn't supposed to be hard. The perfect relationship isn't supposed to be hard. It's not. It wasn't the other person that was the hard part.
It's us.
It was that these type of wounds are not repaired until you're in relationship. Right. Life is very, very, very easy when it's just you. You don't have to look at things when it's just you, especially when you're just bumbling it around. Like, it's not superficial. It's, it's easy to be superficial. You don't have to look at this. It's also, you can be in a marriage and be very superficial and not go deep. The asterisk with us is all we want is full send and all in.
And I feel like that's who we talk to. Yeah. I feel like if you're following us or listening to us, like, Sax doesn't wear the shit that she wears because she's putting on a theatrical performance. She's fucking as bougie and ridiculous and all in and extra and over the top as any human being I've ever met. And she truly walks in it and loves the fuck out of it.
I think Elton John is a little bit higher on that.
You and Elton John would like, you guys should swap closets and you would both be radically fucking happy. You know what I mean? And I truly like am living in a place where it's like, why can't I become a professional race car driver? Why can't I become president of the United States?
We take living life very seriously.
Yeah.
Like we...
Which is where a lot of our passion comes from.
We are extremely passionate. We take living life very, very seriously.
Yeah.
And not in a serious like, oh my gosh. It's
Right.
serious like we know we have a limited amount of time here.
Right.
And it's like to do as much as possible in the best way possible and have the most rich, wild, exciting, loving, passionate experiences we can possibly have.
Right.
And that's why, like, even our friend Jen sent us a beautiful message about our anniversary today.
Yeah.
And it was something about, like, marriage is about moments and memories or something. And she's like, your marriage has had more moments and memories than most. And that's what our friend Taryn basically said too, is we consolidate so much life into every single minute. I was joking with the content guys that we are so great over here earlier today. It's like, I get bummed when I run out of daylight. Cause every day it's like, we just want to, it's not that we're like busybodies or we want to, it's just like, we are so excited to be alive. Yeah. We are so excited to be in this relationship. Then we just pack every moment full that it's like, it's a lot. And so it's like this 2 years seems like 20
200.
Because we don't have like a lot of
life
do nothing days.
We just
like
don't.
we take life very seriously in the fact that like we're very blessed to be here on this planet. We're very blessed to have to know that we're a gift to each other from God, which we truly are. Even if that gift feels say like a nightmare on some days, it's always a gift in the end. Like because we're good people and we don't harm each other, and I think that's the difference. Is it's like it's truly appreciating and being all in. And I love the fact that our listeners, that's the feedback we get, is like they're grateful we're messy. They're grateful we're fiery. They're grateful that we say the stuff that we say because no one's saying it, and it's actually not as big of a deal to us because it's just kind of that's just the way we're made.
Right. Well, and the other thing too, like. Go ahead, sorry.
No, and like, but we were made that way on purpose.
Right.
We were made that way to be okay with just having it all out there for the most part and saying whatever it needs to be said that calls to our heart.
Yeah, and the other thing too, like especially with this podcast, like, you know, we don't get paid to do this. Nobody's paying us to do this. Like we're paying to do this. Like we're paying for the sign and the thing, and we're wanting to do this. Like we started this podcast as a challenge to us to level us up. Because the exposure, and I remember vividly, like our first podcast, sitting in the warehouse. It's like you were terrified to even like.
I'm still awkward.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll ever not be awkward.
And I share that simply because those of you listening right now have a story to tell. All of you, every single one of you does. And I don't care how comfortable you are in camera. It doesn't matter how dark it is. It doesn't matter how crazy it is. You all have a story to tell, man. You really do. And I would encourage you to step back from I don't really have a whole lot to offer. I don't really have a whole lot to talk about. Our lives are pretty normal. Our lives are pretty bland. Our lives are pretty basic. And I'd have you realize for a second, the fact that you're alive today is anything but basic. You're anything but fucking normal. You're anything from mundane. Like the fact that you're alive, that you're keeping children alive if you have children, the fact that you're married and you continue to be married, that you're fighting the good fight, like you have something to offer. You have something to change the world with. And so for us, it's... And
part of it is maybe that you're not paying enough attention to your life that's actually happening to notice.
Yeah, or perhaps you just, you don't think that it's valuable. And I think that's what really separates you and I is I know that my life is valuable. I know that I'm not here by coincidence. We're not together. You and I are not together at the age that we are, at the time that we are, and the place that we are, with the current state of affairs in the world and the government and the country and our children and the whole thing. We're not here by accident. You and I didn't have the relationships that we did prior to this by accident. You and I didn't like date and then break up and then date and be where we are by accident. It didn't happen.
No way.
Like there is without question a purpose for it. And so I encourage you guys listening to understand, like, so much of what we fight about, argue about, worry about is so fucking trivial. I think it's one of the other big lessons that you and I have learned over the last year is how trivial so much of this stuff really is.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that I think we were fretting about and fighting about and arguing about or spending a lot of time and bandwidth on is so fucking trivial.
So true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we've really moved, especially this last year, we've really moved into a place of like truly honoring like every day that we have.
Yeah.
And if it's not serving, if something's not serving the bigger picture or the greater good or our dreams or our visions, we just don't fuck with it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's like we're so driven on living life. And I want to share this with you guys because there's so much stuff that I find that couples and people fight about and argue about that's so goddamn trivial. Mm-hmm. It's so unnecessary. You think it's necessary because your ego is a fucking maniac, like mine, like Saxony's, right? You think it's so necessary, and you think that you have to pound these lessons in your partner's head, and you have to make them pay for all of the things in the past. And it's just like, dude, like, when's enough, right? Yeah. You know, you want your pound of flesh, take your pound of flesh, now move on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's way too much goodness, friends, in life to be fretting about most of the dumb shit that you're fretting about. Right. A lot of the things that you're afraid of, the reason you don't share on social media, the reason you don't share with your partner, you don't share with your spouse, the reason that you're not transparent, that you're not open, it is so trivial. Mm-hmm.
We used to take everything seriously.
Oh my God. So personally.
Everything so seriously.
Yeah.
It's like, and you know what I learned? I'm really grateful for this, and we can wrap it up, is that I found myself judging you at your worst as though you were supposed to be at your best. And what really like humbled my heart with it is when I looked at myself and I'm like, do I want to be judged? That I need to be at my best at my worst. Right. And that really, like, kind of chokes me up talking about it, is I looked at you in such a different way. Instead of being like, you know, why is he this? It's like, oh my gosh, this guy, he's in that space that I know exists. I go there. And instead of being so hard on you for being at your worst, just like loving you and seeing that like you're just in it. And the judging you is really hindering our growth and our love and our potential. And ever since I softened my heart in that way, it's like crazy different, because now you, I don't know that I've ever actually said this, but what I just said, but what I've seen is now that I do that with you, you have more grace with me. You learn it, because it's like, you can feel that I'm starting to do that with you, and I'm learning still, because it's like, it's hard to be that way in that space, but it's, you know, it's when with me, it's like, I have to remind myself that I really, really love you, and that I don't get to just love the good parts, and I don't get
fucking awesome, man.
Well, and I don't get to just have the good parts, because I get to also have your nervous system, and I also get to have your childhood, and I also get to have these other things that you get to grow through. Now, it's not my responsibility to do anything with that, but I don't get to just have the good days, or I don't deserve you on the good days, and vice versa. And I think that's with everyone, is because no one's perfect, and I really, really held on to those bad days and held them with more clout, because I wanted you to be better, or I wanted you to, right? Or I thought, I used to, you know, say like, you're better than this. And it's like, well, hold on. Like, okay, that's great, but I also need to hold space for my partner to learn a different dance as well. And so definitely compassion and empathy and grace, the things that I've always asked you for, me putting those into action in my own heart has made tremendous changes.
You had to drink your own medicine. Take your own
funny
medicine.
How that works.
Funny how that works. It's been a great fucking year.
It really has.
There's been a lot of craziness. There's been a lot of, it's just been a great year. And I think we look at all of the years and all of the days as great now, even when they're not.
There are no bad days.
There are no bad days.
There's just good lessons.
Yeah. Rob Bailey sings a song about that. No bad days, as they say. No, all I have is good days. He says that's a
That's
song.
not. That's
All I have
not.
is good days.
That's not a. I don't think that's a fact. I think that's bullshit, Rob. I'll call you on that. But I like it. It's a great song.
It's a great song. It's a good song.
I'm gonna agree to disagree, and it's. I don't have only good days.
Great
but
song,
I don't.
though, by the way, Rob. We like it.
But I don't have bad days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. God bless. Cheers to a year 2.
And look
we'll
at what we
see.
did. I had a dream because it seems like that's a thing.
If
Things
you're listening
come
to
to me.
this, you can't see, but
We got tattoos today.
yeah.
I had a dream that we were gonna get this tattoo.
There's a picture of Saxony and I standing on the cliff, and she's doing the peace sign. And so she's like, we should get the peace sign, but it's also year 2 for our marriage. And so we got a little peace sign
a
tattoo.
little heart on our wrist.
And
We're collecting tattoos.
If we're married for like 70 years, we're going to have a lot of real estate for all the tattoos. So we decided that every year we're going to get a tattoo on our anniversary of something. What's the biggest lesson from the year? I don't know. Fuck it. One year we're just going to fuck it. We'll get a middle finger next to the peace sign. This year was a fuck it year.
I feel like
Just
this would
tattoo
have been the
fucking
middle
on
finger
my-
year.
Yeah.
We did it. We did a piece, but maybe that's the whole
Yeah.
thing. It is. We found a lot of peace in this year.
Yeah. All right. We love you guys.
Thanks.
Cheers. Happy anniversary.
Happy
babe.
anniversary.
We'll see you guys later. Bye.
Okay, bye.